One thing that you've written a lot about is the concept. Well, trying to make a sensible, trying to make it sensible, the concept of a superintelligence. I know there's a lot of diverging opinions on what superintelligence could be. You tend to emphasize the ability to experience a full spectrum of phenomenal experiences, and also having full control over what such experiences may be. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Okay, what is superintelligence? Very difficult question. What someone says about what is the nature of superintelligence tends to be obliquely autobiographical. We don't understand what intelligence is. Take a dozen researchers and they'll give you a dozen different accounts. If one is specifying the minimal preconditions of post-human superintelligence, the intellectual capacity of superintelligence can in no way be inferior to humans, and amongst other things humans can do, well, let's go through a list of things. We have a non-arbitrary metric, a way of distinguishing the important from the unimportant and the trivial, absolutely critical to intelligence, and this is provided by the pleasure-pain axis. Whereas some accounts of superintelligence, for instance, suggest that the alleged superintelligence might find paperclips important, which strikes me as a manifestation of autism spectrum disorder rather than superintelligence. So that's one criterion, some non-arbitrary criteria, some touchstone of the important. Other things that a notional superintelligence must be able to do to solve the binding problem. How is it that it is possible for a central nervous system or its digital analogue to bind edges, shapes, textures, motions into bound objects apprehended by a unitary self? So you need to ask, what is this alleged entity that is superintelligent, and how does it solve the binding problem? Full spectrum superintelligence must also be capable of empathetic understanding. If one looks at what drove the evolution of distinctively human intelligence, it seems to have been, together with the generative syntax, seems to have been our superior mind-reading capacity for cooperative problem-solving, perspective-taking. So that's another feature of full-spectrum superintelligence. One other ingredient, as I said, this is a list of necessary conditions and extremely partial. Superintelligence will need to be fluent and have mastery and control of a multitude of different state spaces of consciousness. Nature of consciousness is clearly a vexed issue. Some way we don't yet know how to solve the hard problem of consciousness and the binding problem, but classical digital computers are not sentient now, and I think there are powerful theoretical grounds for saying that they will never be non-trivially sentient, whereas we know that organic nervous systems are conscious, can solve the binding problem, and can talk about, reason about, and explore different states of consciousness. So, putting this all together, yes, post-human superintelligence will be vastly superior to humans or today's existing classical digital computers in the kind of narrow IQ sense of intelligence, verbal skills, logico-mathematical reasoning processes. So we'll have immensely greater serial depth of processing, but at the same time we'll also have this full spectrum of abilities. And some theorists, broadly known as singularitarians, believe that it will be possible to have recursively self-improving software-based minds. They combine Moore's law, i.e. the exponential growth of computer processing power every 18 months or so, with this notion that in the future, this hypothetical unitary software-based minds will somehow be created and be able to edit and recursively self-improve themselves. And either on a kind of Kurzweilian vision that humans and artificial intelligence will merge, starting off with cybernetic implants and then moving on perhaps to some kind of uploading scenario in which we scan, digitize and upload ourselves to a less perishable substrate. Or, and this is another current of singularitarianism, this idea that such is the nature of machine-based intelligence, recursively self-improving software-based minds, that most likely primitive organic robots, biological humans, are effectively going to be consigned to history unless we devise something such as so-called friendly AI. Now, the idea of a superintelligence that exhibits human friendliness, we don't even yet know whether this idea is intellectually coherent. It wouldn't, at least on the face of it, be intellectually coherent to speak of a superintelligence that was Aryan friendly or cannibal friendly. Likewise, defining friendliness in some species specific way seems to involve a very gerrymandered notion of intelligence. But on this school of singularitarianism associated with I.J. Good and more recently with the singularitarian, with the Singularity Institute for Artificial Intelligence, humans are actually likely to be replaced by machine superintelligence. Those two scenarios deserve a lot more consideration than I'm actually going to give here, because I want to at least raise another possibility, which is that organic robots, i.e. us, are actually going to master our own genetic source code, and with the assistance of machines, AI, tool AI, are actually going to bootstrap our way to full spectrum superintelligence. Earlier in our discussion we touched on the reproductive revolution of designer babies and the way that prospective parents are going to be choosing genetic makeup of their future offspring. This intuitively would play out over generations and is too slow to make a difference compared to the tempo of accelerating machine intelligence. But recall that it's also going to be possible to for adult humans to edit their own genetic source code. Now, at first blush, this sounds rather implausible. Surely most of us aren't going to become molecular biologists. We're not going to be capable of mastering the intricacy of 3 billion odd base pairs. But recall that within the next 10, 15, 20 years or so, we're going to witness the creation of extraordinarily user-friendly gene authoring, editing and software tools with tremendously powerful user-friendly interfaces that will shield us from some of the messiness and complications. And starting with individual genes and then clusters of genes and ultimately hundreds of genes and alternative splice variants, it will be possible for biohackers, as one might say, to edit their own source code in a recursive runaway spiral of self-improvement. And the smarter you think that artificial intelligence is going to be, the more that AI will enable us to intelligently manipulate and control our own genetic source code. In a nutshell.